Today I'd like to show you MACH3 CNC software set up for plasma version 062 using the Mach Screen 4 editor. I created a screen on the Run Program page that's very useful. It contains everything that I thought would be useful and necessary without changing all these pages. I did keep all the other pages, and when I did transfer something to the main page, I left it intact. Here you can see my limit switches. They came off the diagnostic page. I just cut them, relabeled them, placed them in the lower right, and I get to see them function and work well. Buffer load, I thought that was important. This way you can see how much strain is on your computer. Works especially well with the ESS Smooth Stepper, which has a pretty good buffer, and this hardly moves. So machine only has 8 gigabytes of RAM, but it works well. I took the machine coordinates, current position, indicator lights, labels, and the reference buttons, all from the upper left corner from the diagnostic screen. Put those right below the large toolpath window, and this way I could see where I am, where the machine is, without clicking back and forth from the original buttons. I did leave the original DRO with the 0 buttons. You could 0 from either one. I particularly like this one. Units, inch, millimeters. Those I took from the lower right of the screen setting screen, and those are useful because I like to see what the machine is in. You get to see all these functions from one page, and it's really useful. The torch, I have it connected to the output 1 pin. I took the LED, transferred it, and made one gigantic torch switch. The dwell, which I'm using, MO, GO4, and P, will turn on my torch, and I put a delay into the G-code program itself. I took the dwell from the diagnostics page. The feed rate, I resized that, put that below the G-code window, and you can see I made the button a little larger. Once you're off of 100, maybe you're testing, you want to run through a program and you forget about it, it's right here where you can see it and correct it. The scaling I left intact along with the original DRO readout. I did resize the buttons, but they have all the original functions. I kept the G codes, M codes. I'd like to redo these screens and possibly put some of the machine parameters down here, or some personal notes that I need to look at, maybe some part numbers for my tips or whatever. Might be a useful area. It's there doing nothing, so I might as well use it. The line count I kept the same. It's nice to have. Some of these other buttons run from here and whatever I didn't use, so I removed them. The event still shows up. I did put the MDI from the MDI tab on the main page as well, which is really good because you can do a lot of things with it, and once again you don't really have to change the page, so it makes it a little bit easier. You find yourself switching back and forth, and now you hardly do it at all. I hardly use any of the other screens. Alright, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reference X. You'll be able to see the limit switch. My home is set for 10 millimeters off this table stop. So what will happen, it'll drive to the stop, open the switch because they're all normally closed, and then drive off 10 millimeters. You'll see it here now. Here's the X, and it drives off. I'll do the same thing with Y. It'll drive off. Okay, so now my machine is out 10 millimeters on each axis from the corner. But you can see that all the positions are not coordinated. All my DROs are different. I like to have them the same, or at least know where you are. So I took the 0 button from the upper corner along with the references, placed it on the screen, and now all you have to do is zero everything with one click. Works really well. Okay, let's load a file. The machine's 10 off, like I mentioned, from X and Y. Let me load a file. Alright, here's a little gate lever that I made for a lock. This toolpath screen is beautiful. I love it. Okay, so the machine's at 0. And you'll see my M04, G04. The delay here, the dwell is set for 1 1/4 seconds. Okay, here's something I'd like to show you too before we begin. G21 is metric. My machine is currently in metric. I'm going to close this file, switch it to inches, reopen the file, and you'll see this change back to millimeters. Why is that? Because MACH3 is reading some of these lines and it realizes this program is metric. M04, G04, as I mentioned, are going to activate this dwell. So you'll see the dwell come on along with the torch, but there'll be no DRO movement, no table movement. The reason for that is that provides me with my pierce time for the material. All right, let's make a cut. Here you'll see the dwell and then the movement. One more time on the second cut. See the dwell, then the movement again. If you look at the buffer, it's hardly doing anything. The ESS Smooth Stepper has a really good buffer in it, and it works really well. This took a lot of time to set up, and you have to have a lot of patience, a real lot of patience. And if you look over here, you'll see that everybody else in your household has to have patience. MACH3 support team also has patience. I'd have to say it's one of the best support teams I ever encountered for anything. I'd have to say they're the best on the planet. The ESS Smooth Stepper people, they're equally as well. To retrofit a machine and use this type of hardware that's available for hobbyists at a cost that they can afford is perfect. This machine can do many things. You can program this. The old DSP that originally came on the plasma table was absolutely terrible. Actually, I burnt it out by using a high frequency start plasma cutter. And first I was upset, but I'd have to say it's been about 100 days of programming now, and perfect. I want to show you something else before we close today. The tail post, the part of my tail on each G-code, I can show you this and why I like to do it. The M05 is the last cut. Then you're sending the table back to 0. Then M30 rewinds it. So what I do is, let's say you have a lot of remnants. You zero the table where you like, because some of the remnants may not be square, they may be trapezoid, round, whatever. But as long as you're within, your cut envelope is within the metal, the only thing you have to do is strip the table and load the table. And hit cycle start each time. It works really well for all the remnants that you have laying around. For future, I'd like to just explain a couple things that I'd like to do. I'd like to put in a elapsed time for the torch. That would enable me to see what my torch time is and find out how long my consumables will last. I'd like to also put some buttons on here, maybe jog buttons. It might be a little difficult. It might just be easier to type it in. Sometimes less is more. And that's about it. All right, I'd like to thank everybody for watching this video. Have a great day.